Hi, this is Raj from MR Sportscars. In this episode of Diary of a Porsche Specialist, I'm going to talk about all the different kinds of 911, particularly the 997 Gen 2 you can get. If you're new to Porsche, and particularly 911s, you may not realise that there's quite a few different models, and I wanted to talk about not just the models, because I have quite a few of them here, the different variations, but also the different kinds of options you can get on them. Some of the stuff I may have covered in earlier videos, but I thought this is a good opportunity. I've got 4 lovely 997s here, which are all different, to talk you through all the different sort of features you can get on them. So here I have a 997 Gen 2 Carrera IIS Cabriolet. So that's the convertible roof one. It has a fabric roof that folds down. Here I have a Carrera II. So both of these are rear wheel drive. They're both narrow body because they're rear wheel drive, and this one's finished in ruby red metallic, which is a special order colour. This one's finished in Arctic silver, and then the white car is a 911 Carrera 4S. So that's the four-wheel drive version of this one if it was a coupe, and that one is the wide body, so it's 4.4 centimetres wider. And that one's finished in Carrera White, which is a non-metallic colour. These two are obviously metallics. And then lurking in the background, which I'll show you in a bit, is a 997 Gen 1.5 turbo. And that's four-wheel drive as well. That's the wide body, similar to this one, but it hasn't got the updated rear lights because it's a Gen 1 body, but with Gen 2 electronics. But I'll talk through that in a little bit. Okay, so let's talk about basically the base model first. So this is the Carrera II. This was the one that started, well, was the cheapest, but for many is actually the purest form of the car because it's rear wheel drive. It's got the lightest curb weight, so it's just over 1.4 tons. I think it's 1450 kilos. Obviously that's dependent on options. But it has the narrow body, so you can tell it's a narrow body because well, first of all, it doesn't have a rear reflector here like that 4S does. But the overlap that you have here, this lip on the rear bumper, is narrower than this on this wide body one. It's very subtle, but that's the easiest way to tell the difference between those two. And as you can see, the Cabriolet has the same rear end as the coupe. This one has also got the purest transmission as well, so it's fitted with the manual gearbox. So that's a 6-speed gearbox. There it is. The Gen 2 cars, you can tell the difference between Gen 1s, which ran up to mid-2008, and Gen 2 cars is this section here is a grey plastic. It doesn't have a touch screen sat-nav, it doesn't have Bluetooth. This has all of those bits incorporated, and it's in a black sort of satin finish. This is also the most basic steering wheel, so it doesn't have any buttons here. It's not got heating or anything. It's just a leather steering wheel with a round centre, but it does have cruise control, so that's an extra stalk there. If you see one with just 3 stalks, it probably won't have cruise control, but that can be retrofitted. And it has the basic seats. They're called the comfort seats, so they don't have big flares here, but it does have options like the embossed headrests. Red seat belts was another option. Now the Carreras came with black dials, and as a result this optional Sport Chrono Package Plus was spec'd as a black dial as well. You could spec it as silver or red, whatever colour you wanted basically within reason, but this one comes with black to match those dials. And this car doesn't have heated seats, so it doesn't have an extra button here, but it does have full air conditioning, and because it's got the Chrono Package, it's got that sport button there, which livens up the throttle. And it was also spec'd with the universal audio interface, so it's got the connections for your wired connections for MP3 players, iPod, that kind of thing. And that's the full black leather interior. As standard, they came with extended leather, so they all should have, in the UK anyway, they should all have a leather dash, leather doors. And it's got the basic stereo, so it hasn't got a Bose icon there. So it won't have a subwoofer behind here. That's the other way you can tell whether it has Bose or not. In a coupe, it has an extra section there. but it's a very lovely car. It's actually probably one of the most involving drives because it's a manual gearbox, so you're always involved. It may not be the fastest, but it is the most involving. Now the wheels on this one are called the 19-inch Carrera Sport wheels. The Carreras came with standard with 18-inch wheels, but you could option larger wheels. These are the 19s, which are the same size as the standard wheels on a Carrera S. So a Carrera 2S like this one has got 19s. I think these are called the Carrera S2s, which have been refurbished. These have been refurbished, those have been refurbished. Quite often I have to refurbish all the alloy wheels because the odd mark just really doesn't set the right tone, I think, and sort of ruins the look of the car if you've got curbing marks on the edges of the wheels. In terms of headlights, these were the standard headlights, which are bi-xenon self-leveling headlights, and they're the same that are fitted to the Carrera 4S here. But the one that has the different upgraded lights is this Carrera 2S convertible. It has the PDLS dynamic cornering lights, and you can tell, so look, it has two round bezels. It's quite obvious when you see them that they're the upgraded lights. That rotates as you go around corners, and it varies how much it rotates by how fast you're going and what the steering angle is. But they actually make it look a little bit different to the cars without it. So that's another key difference. Other differences include let me just jump to the back of this one. This one has a rear wiper. So if the two coupes could have been spec'd with a rear wiper. Some people don't like it because it ruins the sleek look of the car, and also they could have been spec'd with a sunroof as well. So obviously there's the car without the sunroof. The turbos by standard came with a sunroof, so that would be the exact sunroof you would find on one of those. And then the big difference, I say big difference, it's not actually that much of a difference when you actually come to it. So that's fitted with a 3.6 litre direct fuel injection flat six, no turbocharging, it's naturally aspirated. And then the two S's, which is the same body, has the larger 3.8. So that's 3.8 direct fuel injection. But other than that little sign there, you can't really tell from just looking at it that there's a difference between those two engines. And likewise the Carrera 4S, which has that lovely rear reflector, has the same engine as the 2S, so it's the direct fuel injection 3.8. Now these Gen 2s are basically the oldest Carrera models I will sell, because they don't suffer IMS issues and they don't suffer bore scoring issues. They are essentially, the engineering was perfected on these cars as much as it could be, and they are super reliable from my experience compared to the earlier 997 Gen 1s and even the 996s. So there's the two different engine variants that you could get on these. I'll just close that and I'll show you how this roof works. So you can do it in the car, you can do it on the move as well, up to, I think it's around 30 miles an hour, possibly more, but you can also do it with the key. So you can hold down this button and it will drop the roof. Right, I'm going to let go of it there. If I'd have kept it holding it, would have also risen the windows, but I didn't want to do that because I want to show you what's in here. So these are the same shape as the seats. They're the comfort seats in the Carrera that I just showed you. Obviously this is extended red leather, so it's called Carrera Red. It has bows, so it has this little section here. Now because it's convertible, obviously there's no space for having the subwoofer there. So what they did with the convertibles, and also for the Targas, is they put it down here. So it's this extra section here, which it would be a wider setup. Now this car has very special seats because they are ventilated or heated and cooled seats. So there was only 2 buttons, these two. There's 2 extra buttons on this one. So that's for the heating and that's for the cooling. You can have both set on at the same time. So it's brilliant. It just basically keeps the seat completely ventilated. So it's a really hot day. You don't feel like you're sort of sticking to the leather seats. It's just an ideal option. This steering wheel is very similar to the one in the black car, except it's the multi-function steering wheel, so it has all the buttons there. Because it's a PDK, so this is the other gearbox you could get. That was the other option, was the ZF 7-speed dual clutch semi-automatic box, which can be run in full auto, full manual, or a combination of the two. That box will have that stick, so, and it says PDK there. You can put it into full manual mode by switching it across, and then you can push it away to go up a gear or pull it towards you to go down. It also comes with these rocker switches with this steering wheel. This car's also got cruise control. It also has a heated steering wheel, so there's an extra button, which maybe, yeah, because it's a red steering wheel, it might be more obvious. It's this button here to turn on the steering wheel heating. So that heats the whole rim, which is also good in winter. And then you could also spec for the centre consoles to be coloured either in black or silver, or the body colour. This is the body colour, so it's Arctic Silver. It has the same universal audio interface there. So that's most of the key differences, I think. This car also has, interestingly, it has the 6 CD changer built into the PCM. So when I press disc, yeah, so it's got a number of slots there. If it didn't have that, it would just say insert CD. So it's got a 6 CD changer built into the car head unit, which is really nice. And it just looks absolutely fantastic with the roof down. It's a lovely sunny day to be looking at these cars. So now going over to the Carrera 4S, the key differences are, let me open the front boots. I'll show you the difference in the front boots. It's not hugely obvious, but when you see the two together, you might see a difference in the dimensions. So with the Carrera and the Carrera 2S, you have this shape boot. You have all the tools there, and then when you look at the 4S, it has a slightly different set of plastics there. It doesn't have the space for the tools there, so they've put them under here, and this bit is a bit further and that bit's a bit taller, because on the 2 and the 2S it actually goes further down all the way to the floor pan, and you have that more space there. There's more of a, this is much smaller, and there's actually a storage in there, and then, as I said, all the same tools are here rather than in the floor. So that's an interesting difference at the front. If you want the extra luggage space, get the 2-wheel drive, but even then the 4-wheel drive one is still relatively practical as well. Okay, and then looking at the inside, they all have the same spoiler setup, these Carrera models. So the same fins, it goes up in the same way, comes up at around just over 70 miles an hour, goes down at 50 when you drop below 50 miles an hour. Now the interior of this one is different. It has the hardback sport seats, so they're a grey plastic. They have bigger bolsters. This one hasn't got embossed headrests. But it's the same electric system, so it's 2-way electric with the height adjustable there. You pump that up and down, and then you have the seat back there, and then you have a manual switch there. There's the sport design steering wheel. So this one with the PDK, just like the convertible, it has paddles rather than those little rocker switches. It doesn't have any buttons for the answering your phone. That this style of steering wheel wasn't available with that, but it does have a nice little stitching there at the 12 o'clock. This one has Sport Chrono, like the Carrera Ii does. And then it has a lot more buttons. It's a PDK, so when you spec Sport Chrono with a PDK, it came with Sport Plus as well as Sport. Being an S model, it has the switchable suspension, which was an option on the Carreras. And then it has the switchable sports exhaust, which is an option on all of them if you wanted it. And then this one doesn't have cooled seats, but it does have heated. So there's 3 buttons here, 3 buttons there. The one with the cooled seats, the convertible, had an extra button basically there, and these were all shoved around, reordered. So those 2 were in the middle, and then it had the cooling button there and there. But essentially this has the same stereo, and like if I press that, it doesn't show you the 6 options. It will just let you insert the disc. Another interesting, this one doesn't have cruise control, so as I said, there's not that 4th stalk there, but it does have voice control, which isn't available on the other well, it was available as an option, but it isn't fitted to those cars. So when you press that, it will ask you what you want to do, i.e. phone someone or put in a satellite navigation destination. This car doesn't have Bose either, so it doesn't have the subwoofer in the back. It has the same extended black leather as the Carrera. Now, in terms of how they drive, a lot of people say, is there a big difference between the 2-wheel drive and the 4-wheel drive versions? On the roads, in my opinion, there isn't a huge amount of difference. Weight-wise, there isn't a huge difference either. So the heaviest of these is just over 1.5 tons, which is the C2S convertible. This is the lightest, so there's about 100 kilos between the two from what I've seen. I mean, it varies again, as I said, by options, because Bose is heavier than the non-Bose system. Likewise, different seat options weigh different amounts. If you have the full electric seats, then they're going to weigh different. But this one weighs about 1465 from memory, or 1485. So these two handle actually very similar. This one will feel potentially a little bit more sure-footed in the winter, because it has up to 40% of torque directed to the front wheels. In normal driving, I believe it's 5% of torque, whereas obviously this is just purely rear-wheel drive. They have the same width tyres, same width wheels, so that's not an issue. The actual grip that you have on the road is the same, whether it's a 4-wheel drive or a rear-wheel drive. But I think the big difference is basically the manual gearbox on how you feel behind the wheel. Now, I started talking about wheels. These are the 19-inch turbo wheels. They're actually called Turbo 1, Generation 1 3.6, because there was actually a Generation 2 turbo wheel, and that's actually, as you can see, this is the Turbo 1s as well. So these were the same wheels that were fitted to this car as an option. I've had these done in a beautiful metallic grey on the insides, and then obviously freshly cut on the exterior, so they look absolutely amazing. I love these wheels when they look like this, basically a mirror with that beautiful edging. That colour is a custom colour that I've developed with my diamond wheel refurbers, and same with this colour. This colour is slightly different to what you would have got on a Porsche. It's a little bit lighter than the dark option, but it's obviously a lot darker than the silver option that was available with those Carrera Sports. And now I will talk about the power. So the 3.6 is 340 horsepower, which from memory, the manual gearbox car will accelerate to 60 in about 4.8, 4.7 thereabouts in this, guys. If it was the Carrera 4 with a little bit more weight, it might be slightly slower than that, because it's got a little bit more weight, as I said. With the PDK, it'll be ever so slightly quicker, 0.1 or 0.2 quicker. And then a car with the PDK, so this is the 3.8, these have 385 horsepower, so about 45 horsepower more. These will accelerate to 60 in around 4.4, 4.3 with the PDK in Sport Plus. And in also launch control. With PDK, if you spec the Sport Chrono Package Plus, you could get launch control with these cars, which I've never used myself. I don't want to put that kind of strain on the drivetrain, so I just leave them in sport mode if they have it. And I normally run the cars, actually the cars with PASM, like this C2S, as I said, all S models have PASM, so it has that suspension button there. I leave them in comfort mode actually. For the UK, the roads around here, especially in Hertfordshire, are absolutely shocking. In comfort mode, it's just right. In sport mode, it's just too rough, all the potholes and everything else. But the cars without PASM, they sit 10 mil higher. So if you look at the gap between the wheel arch and the top of the wheel, it's narrower on the S models. That's because it sits 10 mil lower. That doesn't adjust when you press the button on the PASM cars. That is how it sits all the time, whether the suspension is in comfort or sport mode. Some people think it adjusts the height, but it doesn't. It just stays that height, versus that is the standard height of a car without PASM. Now, the other thing to note is that the non-PASM cars, I actually think, ride better in the UK because they have that extra 10 mil of suspension movement available, and the setup of the non-PASM cars is actually sort of a halfway house between the sport mode in the PASM cars and the comfort modes. So it's actually a good compromise between the two settings, and actually I think personally it suits our roads very well. Tyres wise, I mean there's some big differences in tyres here. So a lot of people like Porsche rated tyres, and I tend to fit Porsche rated tyres as well. These are Michelin Pilot Sports, which are Porsche rated. I think they should have an N rating somewhere. Yeah, N2. So they are Porsche rated, Michelin Pilot Sports. Now a lot of Porsche owners, particularly of this generation of 997s, are going to a tyre called the Michelin Pilot Sport 4s, which these are, Michelin Pilot Sport 4S. Now these aren't actually, in this fit, they're not actually N-rated, but they perform superbly on the car. I believe that you can, there is the option, there may be the option in some sizes to get them in with Porsche rating, so an N rating on them, but these ones don't have that, this particular set of 4. That car drives beautifully with those tyres, and I actually think it drives better than the PASM equipped car on the Pilot Sports. These are non-Porsche approved as well. These are Falcons. I actually use these on one of my personal cars. I think these are great tyres as well. They're a little bit cheaper. Obviously I didn't fit those on that car, that's how it came. A new owner would be more than able to fit their choice of Bridgestone, Continental, Pirelli or Michelins that you can get, and even Goodyears I think, as Porsche rated tyres. So I'll leave that to the new owner to decide when those need replacement. They don't need replacement at the moment, and I don't like taking parts off of cars if there's nothing wrong with them. And then finally, the final car I've got here is a very special one. It's a Gen 1.5 turbo. So as I said, it has the Gen 1 turbo body, so it has the old style lights. So if any of those cars were the Gen 1 997, they would have had these lights, which have a sort of a flattened edge there. It doesn't have that point, it sort of rounds off there. They're not LEDs, they're bulbed lights. So they're the lights that you would find on that car if it was a Gen 1. So that's a very easy way to spot if it's a Gen 1 or Gen 2, is comparing the light shape at the back. The front lights are the same. So they didn't change the front lights, the bi-xenons, which were the standard light on, and they're on that car and also on that car. So that didn't change, but the turbo has its own setup for LED lights, but the Carrera models had a different style front indicator system, which was again bulbed rather than daylight running lights that these ones have. So these ones have this shape here with a LED bar there. The Gen 1 997s don't have that. They have just a sort of like a side light with an indicator in it. Now this car is special because it, as I said, it has the Gen 1 style features on the outside, but on the inside it has the same setup for the sat nav as the Gen 2 cars. So these cars were basically a run out of around, I think it's around 240 cars, basically using up the Metzger engines from the Gen 1 range of turbos, but fitting them with the electronics of the Gen 2 cars. So these are very rare, very sought after across the world, because they're quite a unique combination. This is a Tiptronic, so again, this was the auto box that would have been available in 997 Gen 1s if you didn't choose a manual. So it's a 5-speed automatic. In the turbo, I believe it's strengthened. It's a different actual configuration of box, but that's how the lever would look if it was an auto. So that's very different to the PDK. So again, telling the difference between an automatic Gen 1 and a Gen 2, look for it. Does it have that style selector, or does it have the other one? Now, following on from that, the Gen 1 cars tend to have triangular steering wheels, so that's something else to look out for. Some of the 2009 Gen 2s do have a triangular steering wheel as well, but this is the earlier version of the multifunction steering wheel, so it has the buttons for the PCM, but then it has rocker switches like this rather than away and towards you of the later PDK equipped autos. This has cruise control, same stalk, but this has a carbon rim, which was available on Gen 2 cars as well, so that's a nice, really nice feature. And likewise, the sill guards, the door entry guards, are carbon fiber, but they're also illuminated. So this actually illuminates. It actually says turbo lit up, and you could get that kind of option on those other cars, and it would say either Carrera or Carrera S or 4S, depending on what model you ordered it for. It has the same seats as in that 4S, so those in shape. So it's the hardback sports seats, but it has the embossed headrest, which obviously is separate. And then it has very special 18-way adaptive hardback sports seats. So it has lumbar support, which is there, fully electric up, down, back, forwards and tilt. And then it has these buttons to adjust how much these go in. So it moves these bolsters in and out, which really helps make it suit how narrow you want it to be. With those seats also, you've got seat memory. So there's a button on just under the bows, or if it didn't have bows, it would still be there, where it would basically sync your settings of the seat and the electric mirrors to the key, but also you could have 2 additional settings there as well. So that's a really nice feature. In terms of other features, this is a Sport Chrono Plus car. All turbos were. They all came with bows. They all come with the stopwatch there. So they all had the sport button. They all had the switchable suspension. This one's been equipped with the heated seats, and it has all the other bits that the others do. So it has the universal audio interface for connecting wired connections, iPods, iPhones, that kind of thing, but also Bluetooth, sat nav, and everything else like that. Because this has bows, this is how Bose is in coupe, so it has that extra section there. So rather than having like a step, it's all just one. And just trying to think what else there is difference wise. Brake sizes are different, so they're the turbo size brakes, which I think are the same as on the S models. So there we go. I think actually the discs are slightly bigger on the turbo, but it's got the red calipers just like the turbo has, and so does this convertible, which is also an S model, obviously. The Carreras came with black calipers and slightly smaller discs, I believe. So it's a difference in a subtle difference. Braking performance on the road is about the same, but on the truck, I guess you would notice if you were in a 4S, obviously because of the all-wheel drive system, but also because of the braking capability of the S models. And likewise, the turbo has phenomenal brakes as well. I mean, all these combinations are great. I mean, the only one I haven't got here to talk about is the Targa, but I have done videos of Targas, and you can go and watch them on Diary of a Porsche Specialist, talking about how a Targa is different to the coupes. So yeah, that's all of those bits covered on all of those cars. I mean, they look absolutely stunning together, the different colours. As I said, that one is Carrera White, I should say, not Carrera White. This is ruby red metallic. LM5X I think is the code. That one's LB9A. This is L92U Arctic Silver, and then you have Basalt Black Metallic, which is LC9Z. See, I kind of remember the paint codes. I remember registration plates as well in the same way, which is the same colour as this 981 Cayman S. This is a 2013 in Basalt Black. It has the similar calipers, some other similar features, but yeah, Basalt Black, Basalt Black. They didn't really change that colour through time, and it's a great colour. People love black Porsches, but yeah, I love all the colours, to be honest. I particularly like Carrera White, I think. I love this. This is the first one I've had in this colour. I think it looks sensational in that colour. It's a bit like Arena Red from earlier Porsche generations, but it just really suits it. I'm really glad I darkened those wheels, because I think it makes more of a feature of the paintwork, but also of the diamond edge on those wheels. And this one I just love because it has that Carrera instead of Carrera red extended leather. I think on a convertible it really suits it, particularly with the contrast of the black hood, red leather, silver paintwork, and sparkling silver wheels. I've had these done in a custom colour as well. They're we call it BBS silver, and it's brighter than the standard. I think they do them in Arctic silver, so it would have matched the paint on all silver wheels. They do them in Arctic silver, but I prefer this sort of like brighter colour because I think it makes more of a feature of the wheels. So there you have it. That's the end of this video. I just wanted to, as I said, run through some of the differences, both in terms of engines, but also options and different shapes, different bodies. I hope you found it useful. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to put some comments in the comment section below, and feel free to share and like this video. Thanks for watching.